welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. If I may, I want to say to you, Assalamu alaikum, or peace be upon you. We're gratified by your presence, and we're reassured by the array of voices around this country that have spoken up, spread out, marched forth, and reached across to tell us that Muslims are welcome in America and that Muslims are a part of America. I'm Ghazala Hashmi, faculty advisor for the Reynolds Muslim Students Association. Along with our many community partners, we organized this event today to highlight the identities and the voices of American Muslims, and in particular, the voices of American Muslim women. For too long, the dominant narrative in many parts of the world has been that Muslim women are veiled, mysterious, and silent. And we, as Muslim women in particular, have always known the truth. We've never been silent, have we? We've never been hidden away. And we have always been integral to the story of Islam from its very inception. We have passed down narratives of piety, heroism, and devotion of Muslim women, and of the value of women in general to human society, whether they're located in the domestic or the public sphere. In the Holy Quran, the glory of pious motherhood is extolled in the figure of the Virgin Mary, peace be upon her. And from the life of our prophet, we know about his first and most beloved wife, who was a powerful and astute businesswoman, and who was, in modern terms, the CEO of a large cross-border trading company. The women who will share their personal narratives today and speak with you are remarkable in their own rights, and they exemplify the diverse voices and the experiences of the American Muslim integration. For many of us, as it is for many of you, ours are stories of migrations, adaptations, and of negotiating multiple identities. In other words, our stories are emblematic of the common American story. If I may speak personally, I'd like to share briefly my own experiences. I grew up in a strange, foreign, exotic land, otherwise known as the American South. And I'm working now on a small collection of essays that I've tentatively titled, "Georgia Made Me a Muslim." For the majority of my childhood, my family was the only South Asian, and certainly the only Muslim family within a wide radius of South Georgia. I had no Muslim counterparts when I was growing up, and my parents were my only role models. But this isolated and isolating experience made me Muslim. It distilled for me the essential purities of my religion, that it was a faith guided by the principles of compassion, social justice, and the assurances of the belief in one divine being. And I hope today that we will begin to engage with these and other similar ideals of Islam that I located in the midst of Georgia pines in a small, sleepy southern town. So on behalf of Reynolds MSA and the Reynolds Multicultural Enrichment Council, I welcome you, and I ask that my co-advisor, Ms. Lily Mir Jahangiri, introduce our college president to you. Thank you so much.
When I despair, I remember that all through history, the ways of love have always won. There have been tyrants and murderers, and for a time they can seem invincible. But in the end, they always fall. Think of it, always. Mahatma Gandhi. Though nothing can bring back the hour of splendor in the grass, of glory in the flower, we will grieve not, rather find strength in what remains behind. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am thrilled and delighted to stand before a beautiful audience on this Saturday afternoon, and I would also like to thank you for coming from near and far and making our gathering extra special today. If with no reservation and with 100% confidence, I tell you that here at Reynolds, diversity is our strength. It is all because our Reynolds Commander-in-Chief, our college president, thrives in heart and spirit to celebrate and honor cultural and heritage diversity at our institution. Dr. Gary Rhodes began his journey at Reynolds about 15 years ago. And one of the first things he did in his early months was restructuring a committee which was in place back then and turning it into Reynolds Multicultural Enrichment Council. And he has stayed on this council as a standing member ever since. The council attempts to educate the college community on the importance of fairness and inclusiveness, the acceptance of differing views, beliefs, opinions, perspectives of other people, both inside and outside of the classroom. About 2 years ago, Dr. Rhodes has formed our very first Reynolds Diversity and Inclusion Committee, made up of a diverse team of faculty and staff representing all employee groups at the college to foster and cultivate a culture of diversity and inclusion. Today, his presence, his support for our event is a very strong testament to his commitment to diversity and inclusion. With no further ado, please join me in welcoming our Reynolds Commander-in-Chief, our college president, Dr. Gary Rhodes.
Well, good afternoon. It's great to have you here on campus. And I don't know that I've ever been referred to as Commander-in-Chief before, so I'm going to go home and tell my wife that that's the, but it's a couple thoughts. One is, as president of the college, how many of you have been on campus before? Raise your hand. So how many have never been on campus before? So I say shame on me for that. This is not my college, it's our college. No disrespect to the Reynolds family, but the name, community in our name, I think is really the most important part. And I'll tell you that we have 23 community colleges in the Virginia system. We are the third largest. We have this campus in Henrico County. We have one downtown. We have one out in Goochland. And Henrico actually has land for a fourth campus down in Marina Passenger Airport down that way. And it is very true that this is a community college, and we do celebrate diversity, and we value multiculturalism. In fact, the richness of all of our lives when we learn about each other's cultures, I think, is really powerful and very, very dynamic. And to me, the simplest explanation is it's the difference between seeing the world in black and white and seeing it in color. And I think it's just a powerful beauty that exists when we can see things in color. And recently, I've been studying stereotyping because there's a lot going on in the world that even a few months ago seemed a little calmer. And one of the phrases that I really have learned to value is that with stereotypes, it's not that stereotypes are untrue, but they don't tell the whole story. So stereotypes it's not that they're untrue, but they don't tell the whole story. So I'm always in this quest to find out more about what that whole story is as I learn, day by day and become more of a holistic person myself. So I want to welcome you here today and say thank you for giving up a Saturday. I do want to tell you that our college police have informed me that if the storm comes through and it's bad, this is actually the safest place to be, literally, because there's no exterior windows here, and we're not expecting anything like tornadoes or anything like that, just a serious rainstorm with some wind. Before I let the program begin, I would like to, one of our former board members, we have a 15-member board that I work with. They're appointed by our jurisdictions, and Don Blake is here from Henrico County, former board. Don, would you stand? Don's back there. We give Don a round of applause. Don was one of the champions at the board level, helping me when he first came on the board some years ago. And so, Don, I appreciate your friendship and your support. So with that, thank you again for being here today. I think we'll all learn something and we'll be better for it. And please come back and see us. As I said, this isn't my campus, it's our campus, so it's your campus. Thank you so much.
to show a short documentary entitled American Muslims, Fact versus Fiction. This powerful film is produced by Unity Productions Foundation and is distributed free of charge to educational and civic institutions for the purposes of providing a balancing view of American Muslims and of Islam. The film integrates research from the Gallup Organization, the Pew Forum, the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding, the U.S. Counterterrorism Center, and other leading research organizations. Following the film, we look forward to hearing from our panelists and engaging in a very rich conversation.
So, what are some of the stereotypes you've heard people say about Muslims?
Muslims are terrorists. Muslim women are oppressed.
You know, go back home. You're a foreigner.
Not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslim.
Muslims are un-American.
They're all Arab.
The Quran teaches hate.
Such stereotypes are widespread, but are they true?
In recent years, there have been dozens of polls conducted worldwide and right here in the United States. American Muslims are an integral part of our society.
You see Muslims in media, in comedy, in acting, in medicine, law, engineering, business. They're engaged in politics. They're engaged in starting their own organizations that are benefiting the community. So Muslim Americans are really tapped into almost every sector imaginable.
They're job creators. 24% have started their own companies. American Muslims are largely middle class and mainstream.
American Muslims are like other Americans, with comparable percentages watching entertainment television, following professional or college sports, and recycling household materials. The U.S. government estimates the American Muslim population at around 7 million.
There are Muslims who have immigrated from literally every other part of the earth. It would be impossible to talk about Muslims in America without talking about African Americans. So you have an extremely diverse pool of ethnic and national diversity.
They are as likely as the average American to attend a religious service, as likely to say that religion is important to them. They're actually slightly more likely to believe that people of other faiths have a chance at salvation. According to Gallup research, American Muslims are the most likely faith community to condemn attacks on civilians. They're also the least likely faith community to sympathize or say that it's ever justified to attack deliberately killing civilians. Now that's the reality of American Muslims. Unfortunately, the perception among many in the public is totally different.
Only 27% of Americans polled have a favorable view of Islam. Some might say that the reason for this is obvious. But is it?
Most Muslims reject violence, but that's not what the West media focuses on. So you can have hundreds of Muslim leaders denouncing violence, and that would never make it to the newspapers or on TV or anywhere.
Certainly it's a fact that there are some Muslims out there who want to do harm to others. But I see nothing to suggest that Muslims as a community or Islam as a religion is more likely to lead to people to violence.
Terrorism in America is sort of almost a melting pot. There are a lot of different types of motivations that drive terrorist attacks in the United States. Very few of the attacks that have actually been carried out have been motivated by Islamism. I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding that Muslims are carrying out attacks and they're always targeted at Christians or at non-Muslims, but it is much more often the case that their actual victims are Muslims.
According to the National Counterterrorism Center, Muslims worldwide are the main targets of extremist violence and are between 82 to 97% of those killed or injured in terrorist attacks. Then, why are Muslims mainly presented as the perpetrators of terrorism rather than as the primary victims? Why don't more Americans view average, faithful Muslims as the true representatives of Islam, rather than the extremists?
If you feel that other group is threatening, you impute all kinds of vice and evil. You reduce them to stereotypes, and often you use the most extreme member of the other group as representative of that stereotype.
What fear does to people, according to neuroscience, is it increases their acceptance of authoritarianism, conformity, and prejudice.
The result is the marginalization of Muslims in America's civic, social, and political life.
Society is telling them that they're not a part of the American society. They're not a part of the fabric of this country.
In a 2010 Gallup poll, almost half of all American Muslims reported experiencing racial or religious discrimination in the past year. So let's ask again, are these negative perceptions fair? The extremists quote from the Quran. Isn't terrorism in the Quran?
The Quran does speak about terrorism, but it uses a very specific word. In Arabic it's called irjaf. And this word irjaf means crooked action to instill fear and violence in people, but that fear and that violence is based on hypocrisy. So according to the Quranic paradigm, terrorism or extremist behavior is really an acting out of hypocrisy.
Muslim scholars have written a letter to the leader of ISIS. We are appealing to him by using Islamic knowledge and Islamic teaching to say, this is not what Islam is all about. What he is teaching does not represent the teaching of the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran says that whoever take a life of innocent person as if have taken the life of all humanity, and whoever save one life as if have saved the life of all humanity.
The Quran clearly says there is no compulsion in religion. You can't force anyone to convert to your beliefs, whether they're political beliefs, economic beliefs, religious beliefs. The Quran obviously is very clear about the sanctity of life and respecting everyone's freedom to practice. Whoever wills, let them believe. Whoever wills, don't let them believe. Clear cut.
One of the first things that any student of the Islamic tradition learns growing up is the prophetic tradition that says, show mercy to those on earth, and the one in the heavens, or God, will show mercy to you. And that's really the cornerstone of what Islam teaches.
Out of my childhood, having grown up as the only Muslim American family in a strong conservative Christian community, I found that for us as children and young people, it didn't matter the color of our skin or the faith that we followed, that we came together based on a shared love of God, our shared values.
1/3 of American Muslims report working to solve a problem or improve a condition in their community. 75% have donated to or assisted local charities.
Muslim doctors decided to establish a compassionate network of medical professionals who provide medical services and healthcare free of charge to everybody, to a person of Islamic background, Jewish or Christian, or person who have no faith.
There are more than 20,000 Muslim physicians in the United States, and they operate over 100 free medical clinics around the country.
So we're actually seeing Muslims respond to Muslim extremists with the teachings of their own faith, basically debunking their actions, their extremism with the core teachings of what Islam really is. What happened in North Carolina when these 3 Muslim students were killed was really traumatic for the Muslim community. And instead of just responding with a statement of condemnation, they responded with love. And a campaign came out of that to feed our local hungry. And within 1 month, we have nearly 300 mosques, Muslim student groups hosting canned food drives around America to feed their hungry neighbors.
When there have been national disasters, American Muslims have helped provide relief. Answering the call of their faith, they serve and sacrifice for their fellow Americans in many ways.
Muslims are involved in every aspect of the United States of America.
They're not the problem, they're the solution.
Fear has become toxic. We have to unite.
Islam really is a cohesive, complete paradigm of way of life. And when you take it all, then it makes sense. You can coexist with others. You can build wonderful things. You can collaborate. You can be part of civilization.
One of the most beautiful stories that I love of the Prophet Muhammad is his first statement upon entering Medina after suffering years of persecution in Mecca. His first words to the people of Medina were to spread peace, to feed the hungry, maintain ties with your family, and to pray at night when others are sleeping. And if you look at that statement, it's pretty amazing because the first three things are all about your relationship with other people. It didn't say to feed the hungry Muslims, it didn't say to spread peace to Muslims only, but it's really about connecting to humanity. Before even your personal connection with God, it was your personal connection with other human beings.
Every day, the beliefs of American Muslims are called into question. Don't be fooled by the actions of extremists. Speak up against unfair stereotypes. Share the facts about American Muslims. They represent the real truth about Islam. For more videos and information about American Muslim facts, visit AmericanMuslimFacts.com. #Muslims in America.
We've been very pleased to be able to show Unity Productions Foundation's films at Reynolds Community College. This past fall, we showed The Sultan and the Saint, and last year we also covered The Prince Among Slaves. They have a wonderful series of films that highlight the historical, cultural, and social impacts of Muslims on a global and local level. So if you're ever interested in watching more of these films, please let me know. We have the avenues and the ability to get more films for you or your organizations. At this point, we're going to move into our panel conversation, and our moderator for today is Ms. Mona Siddiqui. And Mona is a well-known, she's very modest, so she won't want me saying this, but she is well-known in the Muslim community and in the Pakistani-American community. She is, if I may say so, kind of a linchpin for many of us in Richmond and in Virginia. Mona is an attorney. She works as an assistant attorney general for Mark Herring's office. But more than that, she's just been an outspoken voice and a compassionate voice for what it means to serve and work in the local community. So I welcome my friend Mona to come up here, please.
Thank you so much for that kind and sweet introduction. So, good afternoon. My name is Mona Siddiqui, and I thank you for taking the time to join us here today. And I have the special honor of moderating the discussion with our group of esteemed panelists from Richmond, Virginia. And so we're very grateful for their voices that they'll be sharing with us today. And without further ado, I would like to start that introduction. Our very first panelist is Ms. Anjum Ali, a former professor of Islamic Studies at Reynolds Community College and has been a public speaker on Islam and Muslims. She has participated in interfaith dialogues in Richmond and other cities for almost 2 decades now. Born in the United States and of Pakistan heritage, Anjum has lived overseas in the Middle East and in the United States, and continues to conduct workshops and facilitation trainings here and abroad. She She has a bachelor's degree in international relations and French from Wellesley College in Massachusetts. And she earned her graduate degree in Islamic studies at McGill University in Montreal, Quebec, in Canada. And she concentrated on women and children's rights in Islamic law and did her research on child marriage in Islamic law. Her passion continues to be her work with initiatives of change, including Hope in the Cities, and on the issues of trust building, racial reconciliation, and trauma healing work. And she is a proud mother of 2 children. Please welcome Ms. Anjum Ali. Our second panelist is Dr. Mirsada Hasanovic, and she is a doctor of podiatry with an active license to practice podiatry in Virginia. She earned her Bachelor's of Science at the Virginia Commonwealth University and her doctorate degree from Kent State University of Pediatric Medicine in 2011. In addition to working, she volunteers to provide free podiatric care to the low income, to the uninsured, and homeless population at the Goochland Free Clinic and Family Services. And she also partakes in other volunteer activities, community outreach efforts, such as serving as a mentor to a Syrian refugee family with International Rescue Committee. And she's also a representative of the Bosnian American Cultural Foundation, a nonprofit organization that promotes Bosnian culture and traditions while also raising funds to assist communities in need locally and internationally. So please welcome Dr. Mirsada. Our third panelist is Ms. Noreen Heather. She is the founding attorney of Hyder Immigration Law, and her personal and professional aspiration is her late father, Sayed Hyder, who practiced immigration law right here in RVA for 20 years, for more than 20 years in Richmond. And she assists families, individuals, and employers in every aspect of their immigration and naturalization needs. She earned her Juris Doctor law degree in 2007 from Dickinson School of Law in Pennsylvania State University. She is admitted to the Pennsylvania State Bar and the Virginia State Bar and serves as a member of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. And in her free time, she is very active with the Junior League of Richmond, as well as the Young Women's Leadership Alliance of the YWCA of Richmond. Please welcome Ms. Noreen Heather. And now I'd like to welcome upon stage Ms. Talia Muhammad, who is a social entrepreneur, a writer, a business coach, a public speaker, and a fair trade advocate. She earned her bachelor's degree in political science from Virginia State University and is currently pursuing a master's in therapeutic herbalism from the Maryland University of Integrative Health. And coming from a family of entrepreneurs, she started her career early by owning several businesses, including a therapeutic recreation program for at-risk children, a daycare, and as well as a real estate investment firm. And at the tender age of 19, she founded Explore Your Options, a nonprofit program aimed at helping inner city youth explore entrepreneurship and the arts. She's expanded the program to include a global aspect, global component aimed at teaching marginalized business owners in developing countries essential skills to help them grow their business. And in doing that, she's built strong relationships with over 50 artisans all over throughout Africa by helping them gain exposure to market their products globally. She's authored and co-authored several articles and a book on a variety of topics, including fair trade, financing, and investing. And she's also the owner of Sister Talia's Naturals, an all-natural personal care product that is imported from Ghana and sold at Whole Foods store. So without further ado, please welcome Ms. Talia. At this time, I'd like to call upon stage Ms. Samah Noor, who was born and raised in Saudi Arabia and moved to the United States in December 2012 to seek a better life and education. family is from Sudan seeking asylum. Currently, she is a student at Reynolds Community College and an active member of their Muslim Students Association. She expects to graduate this summer with an associate's degree in science and then go on to transfer to a four-year college and earn a bachelor's degree in biology. And her academic goal is to become a physician's assistant. So please welcome Ms. Samah Noor. And last but absolutely not least, I would like to welcome upon stage Dr. Samaneh Oladi, who is an assistant professor of Islamic studies at the Virginia Commonwealth University. She specializes in Islamic jurisprudence and family law and Middle East and women's studies. She earned her master's in global and international studies and her PhD in religious studies from the University of California in Santa Barbara. And her research interests include and range from Islamic mysticism to religious movements and human rights in Islam. Her current research looks at the evolving roles of women as religious authorities and producers of knowledge, of Islamic knowledge, and addressing how their scholarship challenges patriarchal interpretations of sacred scriptures. Please welcome Dr. Samaneh Oladi. Well, while Dr. Hashmi is explaining the mic system, let me just do a little bit of housekeeping. So hopefully you've thought of some questions before you came here. You may have thought of some questions and comments after having watched this 11-minute film. So I encourage you to think about it and articulate your questions either on the note cards that hopefully you've been given when you entered, and you can pass it to a volunteer who will be coming up and down the aisles. And you also have the option to ask your question directly, raise your hand, and someone will come to you with a mic, and then you can ask the question directly with the panelists. So, so are we ready to begin? I would like to have the honor of asking the first question to each of you, just to start things. And my first question is, well, I'd like for you to share some introductory remarks, 2 to 3 minutes of introductory remarks, on any aspect of a personal experience that you would like to share with all of us, just being a Muslim woman in the United States in today's political environment. So, who would like to begin? I can just, may I ask Dr. Oladi to start?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you everyone for coming on a Saturday afternoon. I do want to basically start off by talking about my personal experience. I came to this country approximately a decade ago, and I always say that I was lucky enough to land in California. And it's true what they say about California. It is irrelevant. I have met some beautiful people there. And by beautiful, I mean external media, and more importantly, internally. But that didn't always spare me from sort of experiencing discrimination. I remember distinctly the first time that I went to DMV to get my driver's license. I was like, everybody would be very excited. Not because it was my first time, but I could drive. I'm used to driving my home country back in Iran as well. But it was because it would give me the freedom of movement. Now, those of you who are familiar with the transportation system in California, you know that it's just not functional. It's really not, as standardized up to the standard that it should be. So really, the only thing you could get along was to get a car. I remember when I went there, one of the staffs just took a good look at me, and in his immediate language told me that basically, we can't take a picture of you with that rag on your head. Now, obviously, her comments were very hurtful and also very demeaning. I was very embarrassed. And I was actually wearing my lucky scarf. That became even more personal. And, I really resisted the urge to students who told her that, the scarf that I was wearing probably cost more than her entire outfit. Come on. And, being young and naive, I also decided to investigate her behavior. And as I've learned from my friends in America by then, I asked to see her supervisor. So the supervisor came over, she was kind enough to explain that what she meant was the face veil and not so much the headscarf. And this experience really led me to a moment in my life, besides the embarrassment and the humiliation, I had to choose between my religious identity and my freedom of movement. And this was a very difficult decision for me. Now, had she been nice, I might have just run out without arguing with her, but because she was so rude, I decided to challenge her behavior. What's also very interesting is that a few weeks later, as I was parking my car, I was getting up, this woman, a random woman came up to me and she said that, you're very lucky to be living in a country where you can actually drive. Honestly, at that moment, I didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. I wasn't going to stand there in the middle of a parking lot and explain to her that I almost was deprived of getting sort of a driver's license because I wore a headscarf. That it wasn't my religion or my culture that deprived me of this right, but it was some of the discriminatory policies and attitudes. And also, instead of saying all this, I just said thank you for the opportunity. To be honest with you, I didn't really blame her because this is exactly the way the media portrays Muslims, particularly Muslim women, right, as oppressed. And when you try to explain to them that you actually choose to wear the headscarf or the veil, people think that you are so brainwashed or even wanting to or choosing to wear this sort of headwear. And it's also worth noting that out of the 50 Muslim majority countries, the only country that does not allow women to drive is, yes, Saudi Arabia. And even then, you have Saudi Arabian men and women trying to fight this discriminatory policy. And I quickly just wanted to add something else. I always say there's this negative discrimination, but there's always positive discrimination as well. And I encountered this many times, given that I came from one of the top party schools in the country. So there was always parties on Saturdays and Sundays, and so there was always this DUI checkpoint as well. And when my friends or sometimes myself went out to outside what we call the party, the driver. So what I found really interesting in these scenarios was that any time that we were stopped with a DUI checkpoint, I was never once asked whether I had a drug or I And the joke of the day was that my friends were thinking of putting a veil in their car. But just to add something that given the current climate, what I didn't realize at the time was that the DUI checkpoint also contributed to the removal of hundreds of undocumented immigrants, particularly the Hispanic community. And in fact, the local police there had a partnership agreement with Immigration and Customs Services, and they actually reported individuals who did not have the proper documentation. And I'm going to end this there, but my life takes a whole different form when I go to airport office.
First of all, I would like to thank all of you for being here with us today. My name is Abdullah Noor. Originally from Sudan, but I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia.